So I have 25 books to talk to you about today. Let's get straight into it. Some of these books are my fault and some of them aren't. Although it's never a fault to get books, am I right? 7 of these are books that I got for work. 9 I bought myself. 1 was a gift. And 8 of them I got for free at an event. So I can't be entirely blamed for my growing TBR. Anyway, let's get into it. There's a lot of pretty books in this haul, including this gorgeous edition of The Wizard of Oz. I, like many people, have been obsessed with Wicked. And I know obviously The Wizard of Oz is not Wicked, but I could not resist this gorgeous edition of it with the pink sprayed edge. I went book shopping with my boyfriend and he very kindly got this one for me. And I've actually never read The Wizard of Oz. I feel like gradually over a few years, I have been discovering the kind of children's classics that just weren't part of my reading when I was a child. And I'm thinking this one will be quite a quick read. Maybe the perfect thing to read over Christmas. And then 2, honestly, really vanity purchases. So I got Penance and Boy Parts, both by Eliza Clark. So I came across her short story collection, which I think is called She's Always Hungry or I'm Always Hungry, in a gorgeous hardback edition similar to these. I bought that maybe like a year ago and I read it earlier this year and I loved it. It really took me by surprise by how much I enjoyed it. So when I saw 2 of her other books in these gorgeous editions, I really wanted to add them to my shelves. I feel like the very high spec, beautiful special editions market has been really controlled by fantasy for so many years. And in many ways, I'm glad about that because it means I don't spend all of my money on those special editions. But if we had more like book club / lit fic light books in beautiful special editions, that would make me very happy and my bank balance very sad. I should say as well, I got both of these when I was at the Golden Hair bookshop in Edinburgh. It was a bookshop that I hadn't been to before and I completely fell in love with it. Their curation was brilliant. They had a open fire thing in the bookshop. It was glorious. And actually I had to be so restrained to only buy 2 books because I wanted to buy loads. I actually couldn't tell you what these are about. Oh my god, they're signed as well. So Boy Parts is about a woman who takes explicit photographs of average looking men that she scouts from the streets of Newcastle. And then Penance is about a journalist who claims to have created the definitive account of the murder of a 16-year-old called Joan Wilson that happened in a small seaside town nearly a decade ago. When I read Eliza Clark's short story collection, what I really loved about it was that it slightly pushed me out of my comfort zone in terms of what I typically read, and I found that a really valuable and enjoyable reading experience. So I hope I enjoy her other books as well. So in November, I also went to YALC. If you don't know what YALC is, it's the Young Adult Literary Convention. I was there for work, so I was on the stand, flogging our wares. I do find it funny when I see people getting really excited about YALC on the internet, because for me, I'm like, that's work. As far as work days go, it's a really fun one, but I am working on a Saturday. The good thing is you do get some time to look around, and I did end up coming away with 3 books. If we stick with the beautiful book theme, I picked up Where There's Room for Us by Kaylee Kiyoko of Girls Like Girls fame. And I don't think this has actually been published in the UK. I came across it on a stand for a kind of US distribution thing. Had never seen this book before. Again, we've got some bright pink edges. She's pretty under the jacket. So this is about Ivy, who is a infamously daring poet living in New York City. And her life undergoes quite the change when her brother unexpectedly inherits an English estate. And she finds herself thrust into this world of very prim and proper high society. And it is there during courting season that she meets another girl named Freya, whose life has always been kind of mapped out for her in terms of her marrying into a wealthy family, producing children, carrying on the family legacy. And as the story evolves, there actually ends up being a spark between Freya and Ivy, and the story carries on from there. Obviously, we love a woman-loving woman book. I'm really intrigued to read this as well because it hasn't been picked up by a UK publisher. I'm intrigued to see what it's like. And I wasn't really planning on picking up any books at YALC, but seeing as this one was kind of an unusual case, I decided to pick it up and got a free tote bag with it. And then I picked up 2 more books at YALC because they were books that I knew that I was going to buy at some point soon anyway. So I picked up Solo by Grania O'Brien. This is a young adult book that is told in verse, and in this book we are following Daisy in her final year of school. At the beginning of that final year, she is dealing with a bad breakup, a betrayal from her best friend, her father's illness. She's feeling very alone, but she finds refuge in music, which I think is such a beautiful thing. Irish YA, written in verse, ticks a lot of boxes for me. So in a very similar vein, I picked up Baby Teeth by Meg Grehan. I've read a few of Meg's books before and have always really loved them. I hadn't got around to picking this one up yet. This is a female-female romance told in verse, and this also has, I think, a slight vampire-y element to it as well. I don't know whether I'm going to save these for the Irish Readathon or whether I just want to read them immediately. This next book kind of takes us back to the Wicked theme and the Beautiful Books theme, but I picked up Choose a Charm by Heather Spellman. This is clearly an opportunistic piece of publishing, but I was drawn in. And this is about a pair of witchy sisters who are very clearly giving Elphaba and Glinda. And that's actually all I need to know about it. Like, I feel like I know what I'm getting with this book. And I do feel like I should read it soon before like the Wicked hype dies down. Was this a bit of a like vanity purchase? Yes, it was. Do I know I've been drawn in by somewhat of a gimmick? Yes, I do. Am I happy about it? Yes, I am. I picked up 2 books secondhand while I was in Edinburgh. The first of those was So Thrilled for You by Holly Bourne. I have read so many Holly Bourne books over the years. I will definitely read everything that she ever publishes, and I've heard so many good things about her latest book that came out earlier this year. This follows a group of 4 friends who have been in each other's lives since university, and now that they are in their 30s, their lives are being pulled in different directions, particularly in relation to motherhood. On one hot summer day, one of the friends organizes a baby shower for another one of the girls in the group, and something truly shocking happens there. I've heard so many good things about this book. I always love everything that Holly writes, so I'm definitely looking forward to reading this one. And then the other secondhand book I picked up was Eating Fire by Margaret Atwood, and this is some of her poetry that was written between the years 1965 and 1995. So I've read a few Margaret Atwood novels and have had mixed experiences with them. I've also read some of her more recent poetry and I didn't love it, but I'd be really interested to read more poetry from her. It's especially interesting to see such a range in poetry. You know, this collects work that was written over the course of 30 years. So I'm definitely interested in diving into more of her poetry. And then I also picked up Nobody Asked for This by Charlie Cox. I've read some of Charlie's poetry before and really enjoyed it. This actually brings together 2 of her collections, so She Must Be Mad and Validate Me, plus 70 new poems. So I actually already have a copy of She Must Be Mad, so I will be getting rid of that copy and just keeping this. Her poems are largely about young womanhood, mental health, relationships. She writes very honest and I think relatable poetry as well, so I'm looking forward to reading this. And then I picked up a bunch of books at a Publishing Pride event. So I picked up I Can't Even Think Straight by Dean Atta. So Dean Atta is a young adult novelist that writes in verse. I think he's written some adult poetry as well, but I mainly know him for his young adult work. I read The Black Flamingo a few years ago, loved it. If you watched my recent reading wrap-up, you'll know that I've just read Only on the Weekends. I think he's such a superb writer. This is about a teenage boy named Kai who has had a pact with one of his friends called Matt that they would stay in the closet together, so they wouldn't tell anyone that they are gay. But one day when Kai is put on the spot by a new group of friends, he ends up coming out, and that is not how he would have expected to come out, and he also has complicated feelings around breaking his promise to his friend. I love how this author uses the verse format. I feel like it gives a real kind of intimacy to the character's thoughts. Intimacy and I think immediacy as well. So very pleased I picked up one of these. Then I also picked up Friends of Dorothy by Sandy Toksvig. So Sandy Toksvig off of QI. And this sounds like such an interesting and unusual premise. So it is about a young couple called Amber and Stevie who think they have found their dream home. They buy the place, they are so happy to be moving in, but meanwhile there is an 80-year-old woman, the 80-year-old woman they have bought the house from, and she is refusing to leave. And the story goes from there. As I said, it sounds like such an unusual premise, and I'm really intrigued to see what I make of Sandy as a writer as well. I picked up a children's book, so I picked up Wildlands by Brogan Murphy. I've heard so many fantastic things about this book, and it sounds quite unique to some other children's books that I have come across recently. It is set 25 years in the future, and it is based around an area in Britain called the Wildlands, and this is a place that no humans are allowed to go to. It is just fully wild. There are wolves and lynx and bison all roaming free. The only exception to this is a high-speed rail network that runs through the wildlands. But one day the train comes to an unexpected and brief stop, and 13-year-old Astrid and her little sister are actually left behind. And they find themselves left in the wildlands with nothing but their rucksacks and their phones that don't have any signal and each other. And they have to fend for themselves from there. I think this is going to be a really beautiful book. I'm really excited to read it. I also picked up Couple Goals by Kit Williams. This is a football female-female romance. Do I need to say any more? I actually don't think I do. I'm just going to leave it there. I also picked up Best Woman by Rose Damu. So this is a proof copy. It comes out in January 2026. So this sounds messy, and I'm excited for it. So this is about Julia, who has been living in New York. She has a good relationship with her family. They've always been really supportive of her, particularly when she came out as being a woman. And then in the lead up to his wedding, her brother asks her to be his best woman, and she says yes. But when she finds herself returning to her hometown and all of the complications that brings, she does start to panic a little bit. Then she finds out that her high school crush, which was entirely unrequited, is the maid of honor. Thinking that no harm will come from it, Julia ends up sharing a bit of a white lie, but things snowball from there and become more and more complicated. This sounds like something I would really enjoy. I love a book that is set around a wedding. There's just something about the atmosphere of the run-up to a wedding where there's just so much margin for chaos, and I'm here for it. I also picked up That's What She Said by Eleanor Pilcher. This is about a pair of best friends who are quite different. One of them is Beth, who is demisexual, and she's really lacking in confidence when it comes to both her career and her dating life. And then we have Serena, who just oozes confidence in everything that she does, whether that's her career or her sex life. And despite their differences, they have always known that they are platonic soulmates. One day, Beth decides that she really wants to take charge of her life, and in particular her sex life, and Serena is there to help her through that. This is also one that sounds like it's going to become quite chaotic as the novel unfolds. And I hadn't come across it, I hadn't heard of it until I went to this event, so I'm so glad that they had copies there. I also picked up Goonie by Michael Mullen, which is the debut poetry collection from award-winning Scottish poet and spoken word artist. And I actually don't really know much about this thematically, but I'm definitely looking for more poetry to read. If you have any poetry recommendations for me, please do leave them in the comments, because I definitely want to be reading more. I used to read loads of poetry, like obsessively, and in the past few years I just haven't read as much, so I'm always really intrigued to pick up work by poets that I have not heard of before, which is why I picked up this one. And then finally I picked up a copy of Queer Book by Malcolm Mackenzie, and this is a non-fiction book about the aspects of queer culture that you might not know about. It brings together forgotten LGBTQ+ stories and sounds like it's a real celebration of queer culture, and that is the type of non-fiction book that I always want to be reading. Okay, finally I'm going to whiz you through some of the books that I have picked up from work recently. A few that I have already read, so Happy Hill's Cheesy Bob Strikes, Drop Dead Famous by Jennifer Pearson, Gone for Good by Sarah Crossan, lots of proofs here, The Danger of Small Things by Carol Lewis, Our Wicked Gifts by Catherine Foxfield, Survival Show by Juno Dawson, and finally The Witcherly's Love and Other Curses by Annalise Avery. So there are all of the books I want to talk to you about today. Do let me know if you've already read any of these, what you thought of them. If you don't have anything in particular to say, I would love you to leave me a green emoji and a pink emoji. We've had a little bit of a Wicked theme in some of the books, but even other books that have nothing to do with Wicked, like this one, we've had pink and green. So that's what I would like you to leave me. One pink emoji, one green emoji. That is it for me today. I hope you're doing well, and I will speak to you in my next video.